Selectmen of December 3rd, 2014. I'd like to remind you all that this is a special meeting. The agenda is set. There is no public comment this evening, and you probably have all seen the agenda for this evening's program. I know that some of you received flyers to come out this evening and make your voices heard, and I just want to let you know that it was public right from the beginning that this is a special meeting, so it won't be public comment. And I know some people are here because they agreed with the flyer, and some people are here because they were offended by the flyer, and that's how democracy works. There are people with all different opinions. So that said, we will go to item number 1 on the agenda, and that is accepting the resignation of Jeffrey Axt from the Emergency Medical Services Commission. We want to thank Mr. Axt very much for his service on the commission and wish him well. He's going back to school, so he has good reason to dedicate his efforts elsewhere. Item number 2 on the agenda will be appointments. And the first is the appointments of Inland Wetlands Enforcement Officer, Zoning Enforcement Officer, and Blight Enforcement Officer. And I will make the motion to appoint Terry Gilbertson. Terry has fulfilled those roles for the last few years and has been acting in a holdover capacity since his terms expired. That was because we had had some preliminary discussions about reorganizing in some way the roles, but that did not pan out, and Terry's been doing a terrific job and has been acting in the roles in any event. So I'll make the motion to appoint Terry Gilbertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a nomination for a position on the Economic Development Commission for a term ending June 30, 2015. Beth, do you have any nominations?
I do. It's my pleasure to nominate Kathleen Kate Brown, also known as Kate Brown. She's the owner of the Brown Fitness Training Consultants on Amity Road. It's a private business in Woodbridge consisting of a personal training studio. And she's continued to design and implement an award-winning after-school fitness and nutrition program for children in grades K to 6. Most interestingly, she implemented and chaired the 2nd annual Woodbridge Scarecrow Festival this year. She's a perfect fit for Economic Development Commission, and I'd like to nominate her.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations?
Yes, as previously nominated, I'd like to nominate Ed Weinberg. Ed Weinberg is obviously a resident and a business owner. I had read a little bit of his resume last time, but as a refresher, when I brought his name up for the last appointment, he has offered his time and services. I think he's an excellent fit. He's in the energy field and has a high energy himself, and would be a great appointment for the Economic Development Commission.
Thank you, Tony. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll now take a vote. All those in favor of Kate Brown for Economic Development Commission?
Aye.
Thank you. So that position is now given to Kate Brown, and we congratulate her on her appointment to the Economic Development Commission. Next is the Commission on the Use of Publicly Owned Properties, which we call CUPOP, for the term ending June 30, 2015. Beth?
I'd like to nominate Timothy Kelly to the Conservation Commission. What are we doing?
No, CUPOP.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay. I'm happy and honored to nominate Mark Keslow to CUPOP. You can see from his letter in your packets that he's very excited about serving our town. He's a professional photographer who came to Woodbridge a couple of years ago, and he's chosen to raise his family here. He has 2 children at Beecher School. He's active in the Bethwood Little League, and I think that CUPOP will be a wonderful place for him to start and getting involved in Woodbridge on a town commission level.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations?
Yes, for CUPOP, again, as stated in the previous time, we nominate Dr. Robert Wisnia, who is a longtime resident. Credentials are numerous, and as I stated before, another person who has offered his services in town in the past and would love to serve on the CUPOP Commission.
Thank you, Tony. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll now vote on Mark Keslow for the CUPOP position. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. Congratulations to Mark for his appointment to CUPOP. Next, we have a position on Conservation Commission for the term ending June 30, 2015.
I got this. It's my pleasure to nominate Timothy Kelly to the Conservation Commission. He's currently on the Board of Directors of Massaro Farm CSA, and he also serves as president of the Beecher Road School PTO. He has served on the Board of Directors of the Woodbridge Club as well. He's clearly a person who would like to continue to serve our town, and I think he will be a wonderful addition to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations?
Yes, we'd like to nominate Robert Pryor, longtime resident. I think I've stated in the past, you've received in your package a resume. He's an attorney and is highly qualified in this area, does many projects with land management and civil engineering, and I think would be an excellent addition.
Johnny, a second?
So you're saying that's a prior nomination?
That's a Pryor.
Oh, boy.
Is there a second? Joe, thank you. We will now vote on the nomination of Tim Kelly for Conservation Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Tim. And finally, there is a position, Jeffrey Ack's position on the Emergency Medical Services Commission. It's for the term ending June 30, 2015. Beth, do you have a nomination?
I would like to nominate my friend and former colleague, Joe Hellauer, to EMS. I've known Joe for almost as long as I've been in town, over 22 years. We all know him. He has served as a town administrative officer from 2001 to January of 14, and in that capacity, he did serve as liaison to the EMS Commission. He's currently the assistant treasurer of our town and has been a member of the WVFA since 1975. I believe his current resume and past service and experience make him the perfect choice for this position. I'm honored to nominate Joe to the EMS Commission.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much. Are there any other nominees? No.
No?
No.
Discussion?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to explain my abstentions, or my eventual one here and my previous.
Is this a discussion about this nominee?
No.
Why don't we vote on this then?
That's
Okay.
fine.
No, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Joe, you want to make a
Yeah.
statement?
Well, you know, I think I've said this before, way early on, but the charter says that the board would appoint these individuals to the boards and commissions. It seems to me this is not really an appointment process, which I would envision more of an interactive. You know, we were asked to bring people up. In fact, some of these people we've brought up before, there was no action on. It seems there's only action if the majority has someone to fill these positions. So, you know, it's not an appointment. What's happening is we don't even know some of these people. We get resumes. It seems to me what we should do is say who wants these positions, talk about them, pros and cons, what the folks are all about. Maybe bring them in here and have them introduce themselves to us. We can understand who they are, you know, what they do, ask them why they want the position, learn a little bit more about them. And then we could discuss it, the pros and cons, and we decide which person we thought. You know, to me, that's an appointment process. This is not an appointment process. It starts out looking at Beth for a nomination for the majority person that you want in there. And to ask the minority for names, it's kind of just perfunctory, you know, it's pro forma. So that's why I abstain.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I'd like to ask for no commentary today. We'd like to keep this meeting very orderly and quiet. Item number 3 on the agenda is the first Selectmen's report. And I will take the time today to address the issue of executive session with respect to responses to RFPs and sale of town land. I know that these are issues that are very important to people in town, to some of you who are here in particular. And I'd like to be sure that you understand the reasoning behind my decision. The Connecticut Freedom of
Please
Information...
talk into the microphone.
Yes, I will certainly do that. I hope it works. We're working on the sound system. Sorry about that.
Better.
The Connecticut Freedom of Information Act recognizes that it may be in a town's best interest to treat responses to requests for proposals, which is what we're talking about now, as temporarily confidential for a period of time to be determined by the chief executive officer of the town. These are times when the public interest in confidentiality outweighs the public interest in disclosure. temporary confidentiality strengthens the town's negotiating position, prevents outside pressures and publicity from affecting negotiations, and keeps the discussions with each respondent confidential from other respondents. In the case of the Country Club of Woodbridge RFP, I made the determination that confidentiality is in the best interests of the town during the period when the Country Club of Woodbridge Committee, the ad hoc committee, reviewed the responses and reported to the Board of Selectmen. For those of you who don't know, we have 7 town volunteers who have spent many, many hours reviewing the RFPs, drilling down, and formulating their views about them. I have further concluded that confidentiality should continue while the Selectmen receive the ad hoc committee's report, that will take place this evening, and conduct their preliminary review of the proposals submitted in response to the RFP. I would also note that this is not unique. This is not a new process for our town. This is a process that has been followed many times before. Additionally, the Freedom of Information Act recognizes the propriety of confidential negotiations and deliberations where the sale of real estate by the town is being considered and publicity could adversely affect the price received by the town. Under this provision as well, I have determined that the best interests of all Woodbridge residents at this time are served by confidentiality. Of course, I assure you, all original responses and any subsequent submissions will be available to the public well before any town meeting or referendum on the subject, if in fact there is one. There is nothing secret about what is taking place. It is rather a period of confidentiality that is in keeping with both the letter and the spirit of the Freedom of Information Act. The determination of the future uses of the Country Club of Woodbridge property is one of the most important and controversial issues facing our town. It is an issue that I inherited and on which I have spent a tremendous amount of time and energy since taking this office. I am committed to a thoughtful, deliberative, and transparent process that serves the interests of all our residents. In fact, since I have been first selectman, we have had nearly a dozen meetings where the CCW was solely or partially on the agenda. While some may be impatient, and I'm well aware of that, I do not believe that undue haste serves us well in this case. I want to assure all town residents, those of you who are here, anyone who's watching on TV, or anyone you speak to, that it is my intention to make all materials publicly available at the earliest time that is consistent with achieving the best results for the town. Importantly, I want to remind you all, in case you are not aware of this or don't recall, the ultimate decision on what happens to the Country Club of Woodbridge property rests with the residents of our town who will vote on a proposal, if any, that is recommended by the Board of Selectmen. I am aware of the inflammatory accusations about the process that have been distributed and repeated. And there are people who don't agree with the process. I fully understand that. However, I encourage all members of the public and all residents of Woodbridge, if you have questions about the allegations or about the process, please call me, stop by Town Hall, or make an appointment to come and speak with me about it. I do want to add one final note at the November, well, this isn't quite the final one, but at the November Board of Selectmen meeting, Selectman Dye insinuated that one of the meetings of the ad hoc committee was a violation of FOI because there was not a quorum to go into executive session. There's something called Conserve Woodbridge. I don't know if it's a listserv or a Facebook page. The people are not identified. They more specifically made that allegation that it was illegal. I just want to assure you that I have checked this and they are incorrect in these assertions. The meeting was properly noticed under FOI, and FOI does not require a quorum in order to go into executive session. I will note also for all of you that the Freedom of Information Act is not intuitive. It is not always easy to follow the Freedom of Information Act, and I think all of us are acting in good faith to do the best we can. When we're not sure about it, we check and try to keep our town in the forefront of being FOI compliant. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank publicly the ad hoc committee who spent so many hours, who worked so hard to review the RFP responses and to bring it to us this evening. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a statement by the chair of the ad hoc committee, Carolyn Wolf.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to clarify for the record a few comments that were made at the Board of Selectmen meeting of November 12th regarding how I have handled matters as the chairman of the Country Club of Woodbridge Ad Hoc Committee. Selectman Joe Dye questioned me on whether I had incorrectly called for an executive session on October 15th site visits due to not having a quorum. After reviewing the protocol for running an executive session...
Can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Selectman Joe Dye questioned me on whether I had incorrectly called for an executive session on October 15th site visits due to not having a quorum. After reviewing the protocol for running an executive session, it turns out I did not make a mistake, and in fact it was appropriate to hold an executive session during the 2 site visits without a quorum. Through further questioning of me, Selectman Joe Dye inferred that there was something wrong with inviting Tony Genovese, Betsy Yagla, and Town Council into executive session. In fact, there was no wrongdoing. It was entirely appropriate to have these people present to take notes and answer questions. In addition, I was questioned about whether John Malone from Malone and McBroom Consulting should have been invited into executive session. Mr. Malone was in fact invited to attend on September 2nd and 8th when the committee heard presentations from the 2 bidders. He was also in executive session at the October 1st meeting, and he was quite helpful in our discussions about the RFP and evaluation criteria. He was not present for any deliberations. I want to repeat what was explained by First Selectman Ellen Scalatar on November 12th, that having the meetings in executive session was permissible under FOI and in the best interest of Woodbridge. FOI law allows the reviews of land acquisitions and RFP responses in executive session. Once the Board of Selectmen have finished their reviews and negotiations, it will become public knowledge. Based on this, it is my opinion that Tony Anastasio repetitively asking me to name the bidders was inappropriate. In general, I feel my leadership actions as chair of the Country Club of Woodbridge Ad Hoc Committee were inaccurately challenged by Joe Dye and Tony Anastasio at the November 12th Board of Selectmen meeting. I was on the Woodbridge Board of Ed, and I have never seen anyone presenting a committee update treated the way Andy Esposito and I were treated. I am a volunteer who has put a lot of time and energy into this committee. I am volunteering for Woodbridge, not a political party. Going forward, no matter what your position is on the Country Club of Woodbridge, I hope we can all discuss this important issue with respect and decorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
I'd like to
Since our
respond.
names are being bandied around, is it appropriate for a response, or are we just gonna let that go?
I'd like to respond.
Well, a brief
Because if we
response.
wanna talk about inappropriate.
I said-
this is-
If
All
you-
right.
I will give you an
You're gonna put that on the
opportunity for
agenda
a
and just
brief,
let that sit there?
I just said I will give you an opportunity for a brief response.
Go first, Joe.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, just to answer that, and the last name is Anastasio, Mrs. Wolf just said that I repeatedly asked her, you're right, I asked you one question. It wasn't answered the first time. The second time,
But I'm gonna ask you not to address her. Why don't you can address the group, but not address her.
Okay.
Why don't you
so
state your
Ms.
position?
Wolf represented to this crowd and to the people watching that I repeatedly asked the question. I asked it 3 times. The first time it was not answered. The second time, the answer I received from Ms. Wolf, who was the chair of it, and the question was a simple one. Who were the 2 respondents? Why can't we find out those 2 names? I was told inappropriately, and it was wrong, that I couldn't be told. It had to be kept. And actually, the first selectman, Scalatar, corrected Ms. Wolf on that point, that it could be told, it just wasn't being. That was a decision made by the chair. And so the second time I asked the question, I was told wrongly that it couldn't be answered. The third time I asked it, it was not answered again under the premise that we would be told and everything would come out soon. That is the times I've asked the question. You're right, I asked it 3 times, and for the record, I never was answered the question, and the one time he attempted to make an answer, the chair gave me the proper answer of saying she could not answer that question.
Thank you, Tony. Joe?
Yeah, I guess I would apologize first for asking questions that Chairman Wolf was unable or unwilling to answer at the time, that's my fault, I guess. But in terms of what's a violation of FOI and what isn't, because the chairman just stated that certain things are not, I would ask that everyone look at section 1231A, and then we'll make, and then a determination could be made as to who can be invited into executive sessions, for what purpose and for how long.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, next we will go to item number 5. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, paren 6, paren capital D, and 1-210, paren small b, paren 24.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Discussion. Are we gonna comply with the statutes?
Yes.
Is there gonna be a certification of,
Well,
what-
you know, Joe,
and who's gonna be invited in?
well, first, we'll get to who's invited in next. The certification is what I've already said. I have made the determination that it is in the best interest of the town to go into executive session. That's what's required by
Right,
the
so
law.
that applies to this session.
Correct.
That's fine, that's good.
Yes,
That's what should happen.
And that-
And you feel the entire discussion should take place in executive session, not just a section of it, financials, but the entire discussion.
that's correct. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to invite certain people into the executive session, and that will be our town attorney, Jerry Weiner, our staff, Tony Genovese and Betsy Yagla, and the members of the ad hoc committee, Carolyn Wolf, Andy Esposito, Dee Kachkas, Gary Desir, Chris Lovejoy, Debbie Freed, and Tom Kennefic. I'm not sure they're all here, but those of you who are here, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Did you make the motion? I thought you said you were going to entertain a motion.
Oh, I'll entertain the motion.
So moved.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. Questions or discussion?
Yeah, discussion, I mean, so Jerry Weiner, Betsy, and Tony, are they gonna be in for the whole session? And what testimony or opinion are they gonna render?
Well, the standard under the statute is to invite people in who are pertinent to the discussion in the meeting. Jerry Weiner is our
Shall
counsel.
I read from the statute?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Attendance shall be limited to members of said body and persons invited by said body to present testimony or opinion pertinent to matters before said body, provided that such person's attendance shall be limited to the period for which their presence is necessary to present such testimony or opinion.
That's correct.
Jerry's
Jerry
gonna
Weiner will
be-
be there for legal opinions that we may need in the course of the meeting. Are you objecting
But we-
to the ad hoc committee coming in? They're coming
No.
to present to us.
Not at all.
Okay, so Jerry will be there as our attorney, and
But why is he
Betsy.
there the whole time? Why doesn't he come in if we need opinion testimony?
Well, you know, when we're in the meeting, we can make a determination of what we're talking about. If we think there are times we don't need someone, but I think having an attorney there for the discussion, just look at the legal issues that come up every minute now. So,
I don't think inviting Jerry, Tony, and Betsy, I don't have obviously anything against either one, any of them, obviously, but I think it's in violation of the statute, so.
okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. We are going to go into an executive session now. I know you've voted against it. I assume that you nevertheless will join us in
Yes,
executive
absolutely.
session and will abide by the rules of executive session?
I'm assuming you will as well.
What's that supposed to
What do you
mean?
mean?
Oh,
I'm just
boy.
saying because you
Well,
voted, yes.
She's asked me if I will abide by what I'm bound to, and I'm asking, I'm assuming she
Oh,
will
as long,
as well.
only
Everybody at this table,
because you
not
voted
just
no, right. You voted
We
against
just
it.
voted against it because we don't think it's.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I won't follow.
But you'll appropriately participate. That's all I just wanted to make clear.
We all will.
Boy, that's really disrespectful.
Yeah, okay.
Excuse me, hey, don't, you're gonna say
Okay,
something like
that's
that.
it. All right, end of discussion.
You said it's
We will now-
disrespectful. It's disrespectful to
Tony?
be asked if I'll follow the
Tony?
rules. And I think everybody should,
We-
including yourself.
Tony, end of discussion. We will now please ask everyone to leave the room except the members of the ad hoc committee. The Board of Selectmen has now ended its executive session. No votes were taken in executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn? All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
I
I second it.
Thank you all very much. Very
Thanks,
productive
yeah.
meeting. Thank you.
Somebody thirded it and fourth it and fifth it.